Welcome to Collegiate Karting League's Division II recap. Division II last season saw multiple exciting matches and storylines from returning and new teams alike. The division culminated in a thrilling 3-game series filled with high-intensity play and plenty of drama. Now, let's dive into the division. The Volunteers were the only completely new team to grace Division II this season. Veteran Mario Kart player Karina prepared to lead their squad of newcomers into battle, and while it wasn't pretty, members of the team saw some major development as the season went on. Hammer Bro served as a great second option in the first week of the season, but didn't play another game afterwards, so it was time for some new players to step up and fill that role. When it was all said and done, Ghost and Jay Guzzi were the ones to fill that spot. Karina was consistently topping the table, but you wouldn't see these two emerging players too far behind. In the end, the Volunteers did suffer a winless season, but for a majority of their games they were never truly out of it. They only dropped 2 matches by over 100 and kept 3 within 20, losing 2 of those by single digits. Karina established herself as a threat to individually swing a match, while Ghost and Jay Guzzi flashed their potential to be top-tier second options going into Season 3, where things look to be on the up. The UNI Panthers came into Season 2 looking to make their mark in their first season after being promoted from D3. A strong core of Lemons and Archie with solid support pieces in Accident, Icy, and Dapper made up a strong squad looking to improve on their 500 record a season ago. Despite being a division higher than they were last season, things went about the same for UNI. It was a season of consistency for the Panthers. Every week until the final week of the season, they went 1-1, keeping them at 500 and just outside of the playoff bubble. This put them in a position to control their destiny, being able to secure a final playoff spot if they could just win out down the stretch. Unfortunately, they dropped both of their games against Alabama and Michigan State, the eventual finalists. Although they missed out on the playoffs, there were still bright spots to be found in the Panthers season. They only finished 1 game worse than the previous season in which they played in a lower division. They also found an identity in the fact that basically any of their starters could show up and show out on any given day. You saw a different combination of players topping the tables in almost every match, which is a good sign for the development of the team heading into Season 3. Like UNI, Iona made their D2 debut after playing in D3 in Season 1. The Gales had a very successful Season 1, taking home the D3 championship after a hard-fought 3-game series against Oklahoma. This put them in a prime spot to be moved up to D2, where they would attempt to claim another title, this time against some tougher competition. Things looked great for Iona through the first 2 weeks of the season, going 4-2, including a statement win over Michigan State. Their big three of Franken, Goji, and Gold AJ were always threats to put up big numbers and take matches into their own hands, and they rounded out their lineup with players who could put up consistent 70s, which proved valuable against teams with more top-heavy lineups. They entered Week 5 with a 1-game advantage over Michigan State because of their tie with Alabama earlier in the season. The Gales had a win-both-and-in situation, but were only able to win 1 of their final 2 matches and were eliminated from contention when Michigan State got their second win of the day. Iona hung in there all season, ending up 1 game outside of the playoffs despite finishing with a winning record. Their title win in D3 was clearly no fluke, as they proved they could compete at the next level. The Season 1 D2 runner-ups came into the season with a point to prove. Plagued with scheduling issues, Virginia Tech had to forfeit the first game of the Season 1 finals before losing Game 2 in convincing fashion. Virginia Tech took the same squad from Season 1, featuring standouts like Ice, Cynical, and Steamy, into Season 2 with a drive to climb to the top of the mountain after slipping right before the peak. Early in the season, Virginia Tech looked like favorites to win it all, going 3-1 through the first 2 weeks, including wins over the eventual finalists. They stayed hot through the entire season when they could gather, going 7-3, with 2 of those losses being forfeits on their end, and the other coming to the number 1 seed in the division. When all was said and done in the regular season, Virginia Tech looked like real threats to take the title home. Unfortunately for VT, those gathering issues that plagued their Season 1 playoff run showed themselves again in the semis, having to play the first match against Michigan State 5v6. Being a player short still only resulted in a -48 loss, so things weren't over yet as Virginia Tech went into Game 2 with a full lineup. Despite great performances from their top 3, VT still fell in Game 2, ending their playoff run. Even though they fell short on the peak a second time, Virginia Tech established themselves as consistent playoff threats this season and hopefully seasons to come. Like their D1 counterparts, Michigan State looked to ride the momentum of House Divided into their first season as an independent team. This squad of Spartans made up a majority of House Divided's starting lineup, so the team chemistry was there. Now it's about getting it done without the support of the Wolverines. Their season started off strong, boasting a 3-0 record with Don't and Nova establish themselves as players to be feared on the racetrack. They faltered a bit in the weeks to follow, falling to 3-3 and then going even in week 4 to enter the pivotal final week with a 4-4 record. In week 5, things went exactly the way Miss needed them to. A win over UNI and a forfeit from Virginia Tech gave the Spartans a 6-4 record and the final playoff spot in Division II. Once playoffs began, it was time for the run back against Virginia Tech that they didn't get in the last week of the season. Despite being the lower seed in the matchup, Michigan State brought the more balanced lineup and were rewarded with a 2-0 series victory and the right to face Bama in the finals. They started strong with an extremely close victory in Game 1, but lost a close Game 2 and couldn't overcome the momentum Bama took in Game 3. While Michigan State just fell short of the banner, it was still a very successful first season for the Spartans. After being plagued with scheduling issues and multiple 5v6 matches, leading to a 3-7 record in Season 1, Bama was ready to come into the season at full strength and flash their full potential, which is exactly what they did. An 0-2 start to the season left things uncertain, as they fell behind at playoff contenders Michigan State and Virginia Tech early, but then they found an X factor. Those first 2 losses came without star player Jay, and when he arrived in Week 2, the tide started rolling. Jay completed a strong core featuring players like Solution, Bradjo, Sales, and Trombone Wizard, who locked in for Face ID and didn't lose another game all season after the disappointing start. Bama finished 7-1-2 and secured their spot at the top of the division and a bye into the finals. The trend of starting off slow re-emerged with a close loss in Game 1, and then their X Factor showed himself once again. Jay didn't necessarily have a bad Game 1, but he had phenomenal Games 2 and 3 to lead Bama to the comeback victory. With Alabama's captain Solution graduating at the end of spring 2024, the Crimson Tide was more than elated they got to send their leader out at the top of his game, a champion. They are now that excited to defend their Division 2 crown come Season 3. Thank you for watching this video. We still got 2 more division recaps left, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. See you later!